Good day, and today I want to talk to you about new spaces for knowledge, education, and alternative spaces. If you look around where we are now, this is sort of a model that I will be talking about, and it's a new, non-traditional way of receiving information. You don't go to a school and the traditional knowing of I'm going to go through these levels and this is where I'm going to get. We're in the old city, and this is this kind of agent that landed in the middle, and now it's feeding you knowledge about the future of vehicles, the future of gardening, the self-empowerment, the makers. So I'm going to talk about education as a project and how important it is to look at education as a major agent in making the future. And it has always been this urge of artists to make a revolution, to change over the old ways, because in order to make the new, you have to change the pattern of thinking, and to change that pattern you have to make new schools. And we all know when we look around and when we look at this world that there's not a linear way to learn. There's not this thing that will get you in one path. There's all these little bits and pieces that we gather. There's this wider context. And what I suggest is, when we look outside and we look at our city, what if the city was giving us answers for questions we're asking? What if the city contained the tools that we already need to make the change? This is a project that I worked on in San Francisco when I was there since 2006, and with a collective Rebar that was kind of a gathering of artists, landscape designers. But what was a concept here was, when the city was in crisis in 2008 and there was no construction, why can't the city give us the tools that they have laying around? Why can't they teach us to make our own cities? Why can't we make our own bike lanes with the tools they already have? Why can't we find something that we can use in order to make our dreams happen? So this sort of carnival of make it yourself, do it yourself, dig under the ground, see how your city is built, learn your city, learn from it. And sometimes, and we also have representatives from the government here, and they're looking to us for answers. So when we propose these kind of ridiculous carnival of do it yourself, take the tools, they say, well, you know, we don't have much money, but we have this place that we have been thinking about changing because of bureaucracy and the lack of money. What we have is maybe this. Can you use this and we give you some money? Can you make something happen? And we made this a temporary space, that creates this kind of rescue from the traffic, that brings some green space, that it's cheap, it's a test. We're doing something, you know. Can it lead to something else? We don't know, but we're going to watch whether the people are going to come, whether the people are going to love it, whether they're going to take ownership of the space. And if they are, the city is watching us. The city is watching, and they're seeing that there's action, there's activities, the people love it. So maybe in the next 5 years, they will give more money to other people to create these kind of spaces. City gave us old parking meters. We made a sculpture. And these sort of initiatives were popping up everywhere in the city in the moment of crisis, in the moment of economy being low. So what does that tell you? That we can take advantage of any situation. We just have to really know the context we're in. This is a project that uses temporary use of space on this big lot that will become a multi-residential use space. But why not use it for a farm for 3 years? Why not teach the people the ways that, what we were talking about today, the empowerment. Why can't we gather, build communities, plant the seeds, learn how to do all these things? And if you remember the illustrations I showed from the beginning, this kind of ridiculous, you know, let's drive the machines and dig up the city, well, it happened, you know, a year later. And in a way, it was a surprise to us, but somehow deep inside we knew that if you initiate the change, it leads to something. You just got to try and do. And also for me, symbol of self-empowerment is a bicycle. I don't, in Shanghai I saw a lot of bicycles here. We haven't been here long enough, but this is a bicycle music festival I also participated in. And to us, it's, and us, I mean this big group of people that puts it together, musicians and other people, it's a self-empowerment symbol. You know, we take the music through the city, but not even that, but we pedal power the sound. You know, we give the sound to all the speakers ourselves. It takes 7 people to power a giant band. And this image represents to me this kind of culmination of the few efforts that were brought together, the pedal power, music pedal power, lighting in the square that was once, hustling with traffic. And this is all made by efforts of the few people who are wanting to change something. And what I represent today is the Strelka Institute. And I come from Moscow, which I don't know how many of you know much about, but it's a big city, it's a huge city, it's growing, it's becoming, it's getting out of control, it's getting out of borders, there's a big addition coming up. And what the city really is trying to do is grow, but how does the city grow? Who makes it grow? Is this the government? Are we looking to government for answers? We don't really know. This is where the Institute is situated. It's right in the center, in the old factory that used to make chocolate. Now it's a creative cluster, and it was founded by a board of trustees. But only in Russia is this possible, and there's this kind of spirit in Russia right now where you have to find the opportunity, and if you do, you jump on it. These people saw an opportunity in creating a new discourse on urban planning, and that there's this whole missing layer of people who can speak the language of the government and then connect them to designers, architects. It's privately funded by these people, and they contacted Rem Koolhaas in the first year, who, if you know, architecture is a leading practitioner in urban design and architecture. So he created this program, the school, and on the parallel efforts, there's this interesting dynamic of spreading into these different directions. There's a consultancy that is developing. There's a publishing house that is introducing books on urbanism that Russia has been missing because of all different reasons. You might know we have been blocked off from the world for a long time. We didn't know much about the problems of the city, urbanism, the kind of humanistic approach, the public spaces, all this discourse that was going on in the 60s in the growing cities and in US and Europe, for example. So now we're republishing the old works and publishing the new works and introducing the language of urbanism to Russia. And to top it off, we have a really popular bar. So bar is one of the hubs for young people to come together and also attracts the energy. Just like this place, you have the bypassers, the people who walk by, and they might come in and they might get the part of this knowledge. And the bar is similar. It's so close to the Institute, it's intertwined together, so it attracts this kind of visitor that might not know something about, but then gets interested. The heart of the space is really the Open Courtyard, which is a public space, and it introduces a series of events in the summer. It opens up for all the public. That invites experts from all over the world to talk about issues of urbanism, public space, growing cities, data that we can now gather. We have and also economists, historians, and political experts that tell us about context of Russia. The topics range, and there's this multidisciplinarity that really is present that introduces not just one way of thinking, but all these ways of thinking combined together. There's themes that really, of course, architecture, urbanism, but the topic of Moscow really is the one main theme that we're noticing. And the reason is because Moscow is changing. And what is happening in Moscow is the mayor has changed, the one who has built the city for the last decade. We have this new government, not the new government, but we have these new people, young people in the government who are wanting the city to grow in a certain way, but they're looking for answers from people, but we have no people to tell them what do we want. So Strelka is in part responsible for creating this dialogue on changing Moscow and the change that is happening in Moscow. We're branding the change. We're participating in Big Moscow competition, which is the expansion of Moscow, the smart growth of Moscow, putting out to the public the books, the publishing that I was talking about, also putting together Moscow Urban Forum for the second year, which is the first attempt to introduce to the government the discourse, because the government is a very closed institution, and they're not always eager to hear, the experts and the international speakers, but here we bring them together for 3-4 days, and they're able to get into discussions, dialogue, and this is the way we learn. We learn through dialogues and discussions. Strelka is going to be the one to put together the Russian pavilion for 2014 Venice Biennale, so it's a big opportunity to introduce this discourse. And of course, the educational program, which is the brain and the heart of the Institute. It's only 37 students this year. Most of the time it's 38, 40 students. An international crowd of researchers, professionals, journalists, economists, geographers. I'm an architect. And it's a mix that it creates that for 9 months we come together in this very intense program. It's a series of workshops, simulators, discussions, forums. And they teach us really how to, in the end of summer, produce this critical outlook on on the problems that Moscow faces, on the future of Moscow and the problems that exist now. The international students really add to the discourses because we all introduce different perspectives. Of course, there's a lot of Russians because the discourse is on Russia, but think of all these people from Colombia, China, Greece, India that come to Russia and they look at Moscow with fresh eyes and they offer new perspectives. There's expertise in different fields and it becoming more multidisciplinary, and we all work in different groups with each other and really listen to each other to understand how we all think, because nobody thinks the same, we're all different. And then the program leads to summer events. So all the findings during the year, we also can introduce the events. We can lead workshops in the summer, like we will with our education studio. We will lead a series of workshops for the public. These are a series of workshops in the past that really range from art, media, design, architecture, urbanism. We also have this really important factor, and this is, I think one of the reasons I'm here is the Strelka field trips. And this year we went to Shanghai, and the founders of the school really believe that school has to be about playing, and it has to be different. You know, it cannot be based on a traditional institution. Not only they pay us to be there through the year, but they also pay for our trips. They pay for our field trips to go and investigate. But we are responsible for the outcome, and we're responsible for the content. So for example, this year I put together Moscow-Shanghai Urban Forum with Richard, and we introduced this topic of microcity and the power of networks. And we created this forum that brought together leading professionals, activists, designers who are really doing something in Shanghai, and they were able to share with us how are they doing it, what are their problems, what are the issues they're dealing with, and talk to us. So in a way, this is also an urban forum that I helped put together in Moscow, which talked to government and also to activists and architects on how do we talk to each other, what is the language we use when an activist talks to the government, what are the pathways he can reach the government, and how should he do it, what is the language. So in a way what we're teaching and what we're being taught is how to be agents of change, how to introduce change into our environment and how to follow it up, how to make a more social city, how to awaken, how to have an intuition to see this change come in and also engage and be a part of it. These are the themes for this year that are really current in Moscow. It is, like everywhere, we're looking into the future, but we do not want to forget our past. We want to gather all this data that is becoming really prevalent with digital communications and all the things MIT talks about, is how do we use this data to inform the growing of the city. We want to talk about patterns of cohabitation. What do we do with all the post-Soviet landscape that we're left with, which is a mass sea of housing, and how do we introduce a human element into the socialist landscape. And the project that I'm working on is education as a project. And how do we look at past of education, what it is now, and what do they think learning is going to become in the future. Of course, we look at self-education, all the ways we learn. We look at institutions, the current state of institutions. I'm looking at problems of mobility, which in Russia is really prevalent because what happens is periphery empties of all the people and they go to all the big towns to study to the best universities. That leaves us with empty periphery, with small towns dying out, with with those small towns really asking for help from the big cities. And so I'm looking at ways we can introduce some sort of educational component into the periphery and into the regions. And interestingly, I come here and this kind of maker movement and this networking, and if you see this map I created before I came here and before I knew you and before I landed in this historic part and these kind of agents, this is the networks that she was talking about. If we can make a system to connect to other cities, what if there was one here? Can we connect to Russia? Can we create an independent system that functions? And makers, yes, to me it also represents this kind of energy behind the activism, behind the ecology that we talk about. Let's take things back into our hands. Let's realize that we don't need the middleman, the agent in between. We can make it ourselves. We can talk to the government once we start making it. Maybe they will help us. This is a maker movement kind of initiative, but all it really started with was one man. One man really led to this. And what if we make this Make Lab mobile? What if we can travel with it? What if we give people tools to actually affect their own environment? What if they make, here's the tools, here the new generation, and what if they make stuff for the city? What if they look at the city as a playground? Why can't they play in their city? So, as education, as our studio, this is one of the finishing part of our manifesto, but we confront the urgency and fuel the demand for new models of education. We pledge to be open, critical, and rigorous. We're not afraid to fail. We will make space for trials and new discoveries, and the answers may exist between the lines. So this is Strelka, this is the website, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much.